Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got a good one for you today. Today, we're actually connecting with a friend of mine, Collin Cottrell. Colin and I met, I want to say, a year or so ago in Central Texas on a hog hunt, one of his actually high-caliber hunts, which he'll talk about a little bit on the podcast. But we've been buddies ever since. And he actually hit me up and was after I did my kind of remembrance episode 100 for my father-in-law, and he had just lost a very important person to him, and he wanted to tell some stories about his good buddy. So, Colin, thank you for sharing those stories. I know they mean a lot to you. I know you had a good time telling them, and obviously it was great to hear them. So thank you very much. To listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Check out the show notes. Colin's doing a lot of cool stuff. We'll talk about it a little bit more at the end. But also just make sure you guys get out and vote. November's coming up quick. Make sure you take one hunter with you. Now, let's let Collin tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Collin, welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How are you?
Doing good, man. It's this has been a long time coming, Michael.
Yeah, right.
I think we've been talking about doing this for over a year now. I think at least.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what date it was that I went on your little hunting camp, the high caliber hunts thing, but we've been talking about it since then, man. So, but you're a busy guy. It turns out if you're not with the family, you're running over mountains. So hard to catch up with, especially for a big fat guy like me. So,
yeah, man, those training blocks take a lot out of you. Honestly, when you're running for, when you're training for 100-mile races, man, it's you're running 2 to 3 hours a day every day for a 6-month period of time. So it does take a lot of time. And then on top of that, obviously, entrepreneurial work, running my businesses, those kinds of things. Family's number one.
Yep.
And just life, man, it's crazy. It just gets busier and busier every year as the kids get older and older too. So that's crazy. But man, stoked to be here. Stoked to be. And I'll be honest, I haven't done a podcast with somebody for a while. I took a little bit of a break for a while too. So I get asked to be on these a lot, but I wanted to take a little bit of time off from doing these. So you're like my first official podcast back. Kind of in what I would call a new chapter, a new season. So
perfect, man.
Lucky you.
Yeah, we'll also say that this is not the normal podcast where you're going to not talk about the things you normally talk about. Today, you're going to tell us your favorite hunting stories. But let's take one step back. Why don't you, Collin, introduce yourself so the folks know who they're going to be hearing some stories from today?
Yeah, so I'm a father of 3. I'm an lifelong entrepreneur. I've built a few different businesses over the years, and that's kind of been a big passion and pursuit of mine is building businesses. Specifically, I've done a lot of work in the hunting outdoor space for many years, for about 18 years now. It started out with I had my own. I was a consultant in the industry, doing a lot of marketing type stuff. I kind of came up when social media was really just getting started. So back in 2006-ish, started going to the trade show, started connecting with people, started meeting people, got to know some really, really cool people through that. And those ended up becoming my clients. Some of those people are Ted Nugent, Cameron Haynes, just a lot of great high caliber guys in our industry now who've really made a name for themselves. So that's kind of my background. More recently, I went on a self-growth journey, and that's kind of how you and I connected. I started a new business about 4 years ago called High Caliber Hunts, and basically it was focused around a hunting camp atmosphere for men, where we could kind of get a little bit deeper with each other and have a little bit deeper conversation and start to talk about some of the struggles in our life, some of the things that are going good, some of the things that we need to work on in like a hunting camp atmosphere. And really it's about that connection, that camaraderie, that self-growth, self-development. That's really become a passion of mine through my own transformation, which, we kind of alluded to. I do some 100-mile races. I do some, running training, trail running. I'm big into lifting weights. I was a former college football athlete. There's just, I have a lot of cool background as an athlete and those things. But, as life happens, we get complacent and we put on some extra pounds. We kind of lose ourselves in different moments. And through that journey of coming back from that after 2020, I made a pretty cool transformation in my life. Ended up losing 100 pounds. And then I ran my first 100-mile race after that. And that was pretty cool. But now my passion is just really connecting with other men, using the tools and some of the things I learned on my journey to help them make transformations in their life. And a lot of that is, it's kind of what I call the 4 F's. It's fitness, a foundation in faith and self-development, fellowship. Obviously that's where the hunting camps come into play, and kind of, I'll talk more about my coaching community and, at the end of this, but, and then your financial side, finances, so I've kind of really built my life around that framework of balancing those areas, and it's really served me well. And now I'm trying to help other guys do the same. And it's been a lot of fun, man. But hunting is a big passion of mine, specifically bow hunting. I've been a bow hunter for over 20 years now. I started, when I was in my mid-teens. Fortunately, my dad got me into bow hunting. He started to pick it back up. And I didn't really learn a lot about how to do it from him. I kind of was more self-taught, but he put a bow in my hands, and that was really freaking cool to do that. And I got the bug right away, because where I grew up in Minnesota, we have what's called the Orange Army. It comes out every year. The first 2 weeks in November, is for the Orange Army. Basically, it's rifle hunting season, deer hunting season, and it's a really cool thing. And that's where my background in the hunting camps actually came from. Is my family growing up, we did these hunting camps for the weekends during that first 2 weeks of November. It was really freaking cool, man. Like, it was just a way to connect and camaraderie, tell hunting stories, eat good food together, and just have a good time, with friends and family. And then from there, I was like, man, that's fun. I love that. And I love rifle hunting, but I picked up a bow, and that zen, man, just something about pulling that bow back and just the way it cleared my mind. And then my dad's like, yeah, you can actually hunt from mid-September all the way to the end of the year as well. I'm like, what? Like, nobody ever told me this.
Yeah.
So now you can hunt all year. And obviously when you're in high school, like I played multiple sports, so that always got in the way of my hunting. This allowed me to be able to hunt more during that fall season outside of football season, where I could actually do some hunting. And from there, man, that passion grew. And again, like I kind of mentioned, I was fortunate enough to kind of start to work in the hunting space. So I got really well connected. I always had a lot of really cool opportunity to hunt with some different people over the years, go on some private hunts, go on some, guided hunts, different things like that, just really awesome opportunities through networking and through, just really good friendships and relationships over the years.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and I obviously at some point, I don't even remember how, discovered your high caliber hunts, and I want to talk more about that at the end. But I was like, yeah, a bunch of guys going hunting, sitting around camp, like talking, like that's right up my alley. So what you're doing, Collin, is great, man, and I do appreciate it, because I've met a bunch of great guys through your camp. Guys that I talk to, I wouldn't say daily, but once a month I'm reaching out to several of those folks, and we're just shooting the shit. So what you're doing is cool, but let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, man. Let's have you tell some hunting stories. So why don't you set the stage for whatever you got on the docket for us? Are you ready to elevate your archery game? Summit Bowstrings delivers premium strings for all archers, crafted with bloodline fiber and BCY material, stretched for unmatched consistency. Choose from 3 series: Hunter, Competition, and Summit. Each string is built bison tough with unique techniques for extreme durability and performance. Ideal for both seasoned hunters and target archers. Experienced strings designed to handle any challenge. Visit summitbowstrings.com and use HSP10 for a 10% discount.
Yeah, man. I honestly, I'll be straight up. I didn't think too deep into this, just because I like to be authentic about, like, where I come from in this. And so I know we had kind of talked about before, maybe telling a few stories about my buddy Robert. I want to give a little background on that as well. He was probably my best friend, honestly. And just to kind of give a little more context to this, my work in the hunting space, in my marketing side, it's given me a lot of opportunity to meet some really cool people. And Robert was one of those people I met early on back in 2008, 2009. We were actually in a hunting camp. We were in what's called a writer's camp. So all these writers in the hunting industry would come together for a week, and they would use different hunting products. And they would basically use that hunt as a for content. They would talk about that hunt, talk about those products in their magazine articles. If you can remember those days. No, it's kind of funny to think where we've come from then. But Robert was in hunting camp. This was in eastern Montana. And we were in an antelope hunting camp out in eastern Montana. I just got out of college and moved to Montana that spring. And it was really cool. I was working with one of my marketing clients who was a rodeo clown, but he was part of one of the first online hunting shows, which was called Outback Outdoors. And Outback Outdoors is still on the Sportsman's Channel. It's one of the longest running hunting shows there is, but it was actually one of the first online hunting shows, which I was helping market them and helping get them online. I knew how to do all of that with the technology that we had back in 2008. There wasn't a lot, but it's kind of crazy to think where we've come from. I was out there filming this hunt with Ryan, and Ryan Litwin is his name. And I was out there and we were in this hunting camp and these guys that were all around us were there for this writers camp. And while we were there, Ryan and I were hunting. I was filming him. He didn't end up having any success, and he had to head off to another performance. He had to head off to another, he was a rodeo entertainer, rodeo clown, so he had to head off to another show. And he's like, "Why don't you stay in hunting camp and hang out? Just be helpful. Maybe cook food, maybe help clean up. Just help entertain these guys." And that was kind of my first. I was pretty young. I was 22 years old, 23 years old at that point. And this was like my first experience around, older men in a hunting camp scenario where it was like more professional, right? And I was starting to learn like the idea of how you network with people and how you connect with people. And this was a really cool opportunity. Some of these guys are very, very well-known writers, very big time industry companies. I'm still connected with all of them to this day. They're all really great friends in the industry. Jay Lichty from Grim Reaper Broadheads was in that camp, which is one of the top, broadhead companies now in the industry. They were really just getting started at that point. There was just some great people in that camp, and that I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to build relationships with, and because I stayed in camp for a couple extra days after Ryan left. And kudos to Ryan for giving me that advice to do that, because I could have easily just left and went home and been on my way. But I love hunting and I love being around people in a hunting camp, so I stayed. And anyway, one of the other gentlemen that was in that camp was a man by the name of Robert Hogue. And Robert was the founder of a website called bowhunting.net. And bowhunting.net started in 1994. It was the first bow hunting related website ever. He started it on AOL.com.
Wow, on those CDs that they send out every week.
I know. If you remember, that's
a lot of younger people won't know what we're talking about, but we had stacks of those. They were frisbees basically, because you got so many of them, you just play with them. So
yeah. And so what you could do back then is you could start your own like website on there if you knew what you were doing. So he started the bow hunting website, the first bow hunting website. There was several other anti-hunting, anti-gun type things that were on there, and he's like, I got to find a way to counteract that, because his passion at that point, was bow hunting and hunting in general, and spreading awareness about hunting. Robert at that point too, to kind of give a little context, I think he was in his mid 50s or early 50s. So he wasn't a young buck by any means. He was technology. If you think about technology in 1994, I remember my first time getting on a website was 1996. I went on NASCAR.com. And like, if you remember the dial-up,
yep,
it was crazy, man. Like, this was the early days. So Robert was an early adapter. He was a pioneer, and he really, he had a passion for hunting and bow hunting specifically, and wanted to spread that awareness. And fortunately for him, it turned into a business and a long, career doing that. He had been in the industry before that. He actually had created one of the first hunting camos. Before that, you could look them up. They're called Camo Clan. They're still, I buy it every once in a while on eBay. I see it on there and I buy it up right as quick as I can. Yeah. Just because he was my best friend and I want to have as much of him as I can have. But Robert was in camp and we just hit it off, man. Like, he would go out antelope hunting. He'd come back and he had this satellite dish he brought into camp, where he was literally live uploading, the results of the hunt. He was talking about the other hunters,
Yeah.
who was getting on antelope, who was shooting antelope, some of the products. He was basically live blogging before live blogging was a thing. Like
He's bringing Starlink before Elon, man. That's cool.
dude, he was amazing, an amazing man. And we hit it off, and he just said to me, like, hey, we got to stay connected. I know you're only 20 something. I'm 50 something, or he might've been even 60. So I don't remember. He wasn't young. He wasn't a young guy. He was, 40, 50 years older than me, but we hit it off. And he said, give me your phone number. I'm headed to a bear hunt after this, so I'm going to be out of touch for the next, few months. Like, this is going to be a pretty bit. It was this busy time. He was invited on all these hunts. He would go talk about them. He would post his stories, those kinds of things. He was a writer. And so anyway, he gave me a call then, in what was it? It was probably November, December timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, I bought you a ticket. You're flying out to Texas to hang out with me for a week. I was like, what? He's like, no, seriously, I'm going to buy you a ticket. You got to come out here. We got to hang out. We got to talk business, and because I was doing my marketing stuff, and he knew he needed to advance his website. He needed to get on social media more. He needed to start doing some things to stay with the times, because that's what he was. He was a pioneer. And so I was like, cool, that sounds awesome, man. So he literally, I'm a 23-year-old kid, he's like, I got you covered, man. You can come stay here for free. I'll feed you. I'll put a roof over your head. We're hanging out for a week and we're talking business. And so I went out there. It might've been January or February that year, which was a perfect time to go because it was wintertime and I was living out in Bozeman, Montana at that time.
Yeah.
And I got out to Texas and it was a nice 80 degrees, 70 degrees.
Yeah, it's a good time to be in Texas. Way better than August.
Oh, it was perfect, man. And I'm just like, man, that was only my second time ever going to Texas. And so I was like, man, this is awesome. And so we hung out for a week. He brought me out on his hunting lease, which was right next to where he lived. We went out, I brought my bow. I went out, killed my first pig, spot and stock on the ground. That was really
that's cool.
Like, I just remember I'd never hunted pigs before. I'd never even seen a wild pig before. And so he just was like, we're going to go out there and we're going to walk around and we're going to find one and you're going to put a stock on it. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And
that's so easy.
in my head, I was thinking, oh, we'll sit on a feeder and wait for corn to come out and we'll shoot it, on a feeder, which you can do that too, which is great. But he was like, no, I want you to try to spot and stalk on one and kill one. That would be a lot of fun for you to do that. So kind of that first hunt, our first hunt together was we drove out onto his leased property. We parked and we started walking around on these lease roads, basically these little 2 tracks. And so we're walking around and this is thick cedar brush, juniper brush. It's really thick. And it's hard to see through that, but you can see through these little paths in the trees and stuff like that. And then every once in a while there'd be these little oak breaks where it was really nice. You could see through really nice. But what was really cool about that is just using the terrain to your advantage. You get the wind in your face. You were able to sneak around really easy and be super quiet. And be able to sneak up on things really easy. So it was awesome. I was like, man, this is fun. Like, this is really cool. And I ended up, coming around the bend of this little 2-track road and Robert was kind of behind me and I turned and I just kind of went like this. And I said, there's a couple pigs. He's like, gave me the big thumbs. I just remembered the big thumbs up. He had a big smile on his face, and I was like, I was going to go after it, so I come around that corner and I got within like 20 yards. These pigs were rooting around. One of them was laying down, just had his nose in the ground, kind of digging in. And the pigs didn't see me. I had perfect wind. I just remember pulling back, anchoring, kind of went through my whole shot process. And I just let them have it. That thing it smacked him. I'd never heard an arrow hit that hard. It's just something about when you hit a pig, it just sounds like you're whopping somebody over the head with a frying pan. It's a super loud, loud hit. I later found that that's because they have a big plate in their shoulder, they have a big shoulder plate, and when an arrow hits it, it's just crazy loud. But I smacked that pig, perfect shot. He was kind of quartering away while he was laying down, and it dropped right there. He spun around a couple times and died quick. I mean, it was so quick, and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. I like this kind of hunting. So right away, I was addicted to hog hunting. You know, that was kind of my first encounter, my first experience, and I was just super addicted. But then as I dove in and started to learn more about it, there was just so many different ways you could hunt pigs and different scenarios, and they're so abundant here in Texas. You know, they're everywhere. So it's really you're just trying to mitigate the damage that they're doing on the fields and things like that. So yeah, it was cool, man. Like it was a really cool experience, but most of all, it was just that bonding time I got to have with Robert, and that set the tone for our next 15 years as friends. Like that was that first experience that we got to have together. And we went back. I remember we went back to the house. He got me some good photos and stuff. He was really good at all that. He wrote a whole story about it. He put it on his website. You know, I was just like, wow. And like his website at that point, bowhunting.net was getting, I think, like 1 million people a month to the website.
Wow.
It was
Okay.
like when you typed in bow hunting on Google, like it was like the top search. So like this was a big time deal. Like it opened my eyes to this whole new world of internet writing and internet blogging and what that looked like and how companies wanted to be part of that. And you know, and then obviously I was versed in social media, so I was understanding how we could use this with social media, and like it created this whole new idea for business for me. And you know, just the way Robert and I hit it off, it's like, man, we got to get to work on this. Like we need to continue to build this and grow this. So him and his business partner hired me right there, and they were my client at that point, and paying me some good money to help them build their business up, you know, that they were doing really well in. And plus, on top of that, the perks of getting invited on cool hunts, getting a bunch of free hunting products from our sponsors and partners.
Yeah.
Like it just opened my eyes to this whole new world, right? And at that point, like we had the outdoor channel and the sportsman's channel, and then this whole internet TV thing was starting up. We had Bill Winke and then Outback Outdoors. You know, some of these shows were starting to pop up, but it was so cool. Like we could write about our hunts, you know, that we were invited on or on people's properties or even just on our own leases, our own properties. And people love to read that. They love to hear about those things. And in not just a magazine format. So
Yeah.
it was instant feedback, instant, you know, there was just a lot of really cool things about that opportunity. But man, that turned into a really great relationship for us. And before I knew it, Robert was, you know, he invited me back to come back out, I think 6 or 8 months later, kind of did the same thing. I brought my bow back out. We worked on some projects we've been working on. We did some more hunting. You know, it was just really cool. And I just remember being there that time in Central Texas. And I just was like, man, I love this place. This place is awesome. Like, maybe I should think about moving out here, you know? And it's a long story. I won't get too deep into all that, but I ended up meeting a girl too when I was out there that time. So I had a little girlfriend in Texas that I was kind of hanging out with, and that kind of you know was coaxing me into maybe I want to be closer to her too. So
Yeah.
I did. A year later, I ended up moving out to Texas, and Robert invited me to be part of his hunting lease. We were doing work together. It was really cool, and that just started our relationship. You know, in a way where we could spend a lot of time together. You know, he was kind of the old wise soul, and I was the young soul who really enjoyed his wisdom and enjoyed learning from him. And he was teaching me a ton about bow hunting and teaching me a ton about, you know, hunting deer and hunting pigs and hunting bears and different things like that. But then on the other side, I was teaching him about this internet thing and about social media and how we could, you know, continue to build and grow what he had built. So it was a lot of fun, man. Those were some fun times, but that turned into us going on a lot of hunting trips. And a lot of it was turkey hunting. Turkey hunting was Robert's like ultimate passion. He had been on every hunt there was.
Yeah.
Literally
That's
caribou,
cool.
bear, you know, gator hunting, like a ton of different hunting. You know, he's done everything, Africa, everything in between. But turkey hunting was his ultimate favorite.
Yeah.
And he taught me, I had been into turkey hunting. I'd never killed one, but I had been into turkey hunting as I started hunting. And from the start, I was like, I'm not shooting one of these with a shotgun. Like I'm going to kill one with a bow. Like that's what I'm going to do. So my first like 4 years of turkey hunting, 3 or 4 years of turkey hunting, me and my dad in Minnesota hunting Easterns at that time, which are tough birds. to put down. They're very smart. They're probably the smartest bird of the subspecies, in my opinion, because I've hunted all of them and they're really tough.
That's because they're the ones giving you the hardest time. That's why they're the smartest, right?
I guess, I don't know. They're like the smartest dumb bird I've ever. It's crazy, man. I don't know if you've hunted a lot of turkey, but man, they are. It's just something about turkey, man. They are
so dumb,
and but they're smart.
Make you. Yeah, and they make you feel like an idiot because you're going like, "Hey, turkey," and it's like I'm over here, and yet you can't get there and kill it. Like
exactly.
they give you all the information you need, but you can't get it done. I love turkey hunting. I just wish, like in Colorado, you get one tag. So it's like you put in a lot of work, and you're going to get 2 meals out of it. So I wish I could get more birds. Not that there are a ton of birds in Colorado, but man, I've had a lot of fun. I'm hoping to eventually complete my my turkey grand slam. Right now, I've got Rio and Miriam. So I still need Eastern and what is it, the Osceola or whatever they got down there in Florida. Yep. So, but yeah, I love it. But continue. Sorry. Imagine this. You're deep in the wilderness. The sun is rising, casting golden light over rugged terrain. Your heart races as you navigate through the backcountry, knowing the perfect shot could come at any moment. This is where memories are made and stories are born. Ultralight rifles are often seen as Mountain West guns, but the Ridgeline FFT from Christensen Arms breaks that mold. This stellar, lightweight rifle is your perfect companion, whether you're in the backcountry or box blind, ensuring you never have to switch between your builds. With its aero-grade carbon fiber barrel and stock, the Ridgeline FFT is incredibly lightweight, yet powerful. Thanks to its innovative side baffle brake, it reduces recoil even on a 5-pound gun shooting magnum calibers. It's like black magic. As a sub-MOA tack driver made in America, the Ridgeline FFT is for those who seek the thrill of the hunt and the joy of storytelling. Picture yourself returning to camp, Ridgeline FFT in hand, ready to share the day's adventures. Head to your local shop, pick one up. You've got to feel this rifle to believe it. Let the Ridgeline FFT be part of your hunting stories and the legacy you pass down.
No, I love it, man. I love it. And when you meet somebody who's passionate about turkey hunting, it's not about, like, kind of you mentioned, like, man, I wish we got more than one tag. That when you meet somebody who's into turkey hunting, it's because they go hunt multiple states. They are super passionate about it. Like, don't get me wrong, eating turkey nuggets is amazing. Turkey breasts, whatever, however you like to cook it. But man, the pursuit of wild turkey, especially with a bow, I didn't realize like how passionate people are about that. Not just with a bow, but with a shotgun too. But what I learned, Robert was like, I every spring I go on what's called a turkey slam, and I go kill all 4 subspecies of the turkey, and I talk about it. I take my truck, I load it up, and I travel to all these different states, and we write about it, and we do it. I was like, that's cool. And at that point, I'm not married. I don't have kids. Like, I don't have anything holding me back, holding me down. I've got a bow in my hands. I've got enough money in my pocket to survive. And Robert's like, do you want to come with? I'm like, hell yeah, we're going. And so I remember it was like 2010 was our first slam attempt together. So leading up to that, Robert had killed, I think, probably 5 or 6 slams in a row, like 6 years in a row, where he killed all 4 subspecies in one spring. So like, this was a big deal for him. And I was learning about this passion of calling and how to hunt them, and especially with a bow, it's totally different than with a shotgun. You got to have a ton of patience. But yeah, we went on that first slam together, man, and it was so cool. I kind of wanted to tell the story about my first turkey hunt with Robert. We the first place on the trip was we were going to go to Florida, and Robert, that's where the first hunt of the season opens up, is in South Florida. You can hunt Osceola. I think it's in mid-May, mid-March, excuse me.
Yeah.
Maybe February. It might have been February, honestly. It's the first season that opens though. So, in South Florida, obviously it's warm then. It's nice weather. He's like, we load up the truck, we pack everything, and basically we're going to Florida to hunt wild turkey. And I had a camera at that point too. So he's like, we'll try to film some of it and try to put that out there and be able to offer something new for the website, put some videos up about this. But ultimately we were writing, he was writing stories about it and posting photos and stories about it. But I didn't know if I was going to get to hunt on all these hunts. It was more me just going along for the fun and learning with him and just being in a blind with him to help document and help be part of that. And so Robert ended up killing the first morning. We got it all on video. I actually still have the video. I need to send that to you after this because it's really cool. It's a really cool video. That was our first official hunt together ever, first turkey hunt especially. Yeah. And it was just awesome. And he just turns to me after that. He's like, hey, you want to kill one? David has offered the outfitter at that time. David Mills is his name. Great friend still. He was great friends with Robert. He's like, David offered up. He really likes you. He wanted to give you a free hunt and allow you to kill a turkey. He's like, really? And I don't know if you know anything about Osceola hunting, but it's mostly on private land. There's not a lot of public land in Florida. You can find a little bit. A lot of times it's pretty pressured, but typically you pay anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 for a Osceola hunt in Florida.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
It's not a cheap hunt because it's so well sought after, because a lot of times it's the last bird people have to kill to finish out their Grand Slam. Yeah. So for me to have the opportunity for that to be my first bird, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I appreciate this. Thank you. I was almost like, are you serious? And he was. And so we went out that next morning. We were up early. Actually, now that I remember it, I haven't thought about this hunt for a while, to be honest. So I appreciate you allowing me to think about this. We were actually late getting up that next morning for some reason. Robert was probably drinking coffee. That's why. But
plenty of coffee.
He loved his coffee. He's the one who helped me become a black coffee drinker, actually, because he just was drinking it all the time. I was like, well, I guess I got to join him in this one. I'd never really drank coffee at that point. I wasn't into coffee, but we were late getting up and getting going, and Robert's like, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to go out there and kill one anyway. And he's like, they're rising late this morning too. And I was like, okay, all right.
They had coffee last night as well.
Yeah, maybe. They were out partying last night. But we get out there, we get the blind set up. We primarily hunted turkeys out of a ground blind, a double bull ground blind at that point. And, we're all set up in the blind, and Robert's a master caller, man. He was a great turkey caller. And, he's calling and no response. We'd call about every 10, 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, it's probably about 10:30-ish in the morning. We got out there probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock, like well into sunlight already, well into the morning. And he's like, just be patient. They're going to come, it's going to happen. I was like, all right. I'm thinking, oh, we missed it. They were probably off the roost, walked right by, Yeah. That's typically how it goes with turkey hunting from what I had known at that point. But these were unpressured birds. So that kind of helped as well on private property. And he's like, just be patient. And next thing you know, like he called and big loud gobble off in the distance. I'm like, oh my I just remember the hair on my arms was like standing up, man. I got goosebumps. I was like, this is awesome. The sound of an Osceola turkey, how they gobble, I don't know, for some reason, just in that moment, it just was loud. It was, and I guess he was pretty close. That's probably why, but it was a different sound than what I had heard with an Eastern bird. And it was really cool. And he's like, just be patient, get ready, whatever, So in a ground blind, you have a little bit more, you can have a little bit more movement, fortunately, which helps. But we had our faces covered up, we had gloves on our hands, we had this all set up. We had the decoy literally at like 7-8 yards. We had it super tight, super close. We want that bird to come in really close, and that's a lot of times I learned over the years that that's the mistake that turkey hunters make, is they put their decoy out at 20 yards. You're trying to shoot a turkey that has a vital area this big, literally at 20 yards. Like that's why a lot of guys, end up not killing one. It's really tough to kill one. But if you get them in nice and tight and close and you're careful, this is all stuff that Robert had taught me on that first morning. And as I watched him do this, I was like, wow, this is cool. Like we're going to kill a bird at 8 yards, literally 8 to 10 yards right there in our wheelhouse. And it all came together. That bird came running in, saw the decoy, strutting his stuff in front of us. I'm just like, my heart's just boom, 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 pounding out of my chest. Like, this is the coolest thing. I had shot at turkeys prior to, but I had never done it like Robert was showing me, you know, getting him in so tight and close like that. And it just brought a whole new, it brought a whole new adrenaline to me in that moment, and a whole new passion for hunting these stupid frickin' birds. And man, I pulled back and I just put my pin on that bird and just let him have it. And it whop, you know, and he jumped up, he spun around, and he ran off. And I'm just like, it just happened so quick. It was just like that.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking over at Robert. Did I get him? Did I get him? He's like, you got him. I'm like, should we go grab him? Should we go grab him? You know, because I'm thinking, you know, a lot of times you have to go grab that bird and make sure it's dead right away. He's like, no, you got him. Just be patient. Just wait. We'll give it some time. And, you know, he like, we're fired up in the blind. You know, we're hooping and hollering. And he's like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, you know, there's many turkey hunters out there, but what did he say? There's many turkey hunters out there, but there's not many who've killed an Osceola turkey or something like that. It was, you know, it was something really cool. I have to find what he wrote because it was really cool, or what he said. I'm not remembering it right now exactly how it was, but he said something like, there's many people out there, but there's not many people that have killed a turkey. It was something profound. Like it just in the moment, I was just like, whoa, like that's cool. Like I'm part of the elite now. Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I've joined the club.
I think he said with a bow. There's not many that have killed a turkey with a bow, which in all reality, as I thought about that, I was like, man, that's true. A lot of turkey hunters are, you know, using shotguns and whatever. And so it was really cool to like, for him to say that and just get me fired up in that moment. We walked over there together, and it was laying right on the edge of the grass, in the tall grass. And I just remember lifting that thing up, and that thing had hooks that big and big, long, you know, 10-inch beard. It was just a beautiful bird, man. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
How it all came
cool.
together. But it wasn't just the kill, man. It was just that whole time of camaraderie and fellowship with Robert. You know, like I grew up, and I didn't have a grandpa who took me out hunting. My dad took me out hunting, and that was wonderful, but I didn't have that grandpa type figure. My grandpa had passed away when I was super young, so I never really had a grandpa to take me out and do these things. And it was like that moment where it was like having a grandfather take you out and show you the ropes and, you know, show you how it's done. And then for it to all come together, that was just icing on the cake, right?
That's super cool. I never thought about that, man. But my father's father ran away when he was born, so never met that granddad. My other granddad, he passed when I was about 8. So he was the only hunter in the family. So when he passed, there was no one to pass that along. So like from 8 until what? I think I started hunting at like 31. So you know, it would have been great if I had the opportunity to hunt with my grandpa. Like that's something that I never realized that I missed until you mentioned that. So
yeah. And that's something I had thought a lot about. I'd actually had vivid dreams. In these dreams, I was hunting with my grandfather and fishing with my grandfather, but I never actually experienced that in person, right? You know, I had hunted with my dad and stuff, but so I just remember that moment like being super special, and my first turkey kill, and Robert called it in for me. You know, just what a cool way to kill your first bird. And we celebrated, and David Mills cooked up turkey nuggets for us. And man, he's a master cook. Like this guy knows how to cook everything and anything wild game. It was amazing. And just, we started that whole trip on such a high, and it was so cool. And we ended up going to Alabama, hunting turkeys there. I could tell some cool stories about that. That was a lot of fun. Then from there, we went back to Texas, kind of reloaded for a couple days, got some rest. Because, you know, these hunts, you're getting up early, you're staying out late. Like these are long days, You're traveling, driving around. I didn't realize how taxing that was, even for me as a young guy. I can't believe Robert was doing this, you know, at 60 something, you know?
Yeah.
And we loaded back up, and he's like, all right, we're headed to South Dakota next, you know? So we went out to South Dakota. I ended up killing 2 birds out there. He killed I think 3 birds. And then our buddy Fred, Robert's hunting partner, Fred Lucher is his name. He ended up killing 3 birds as well. So we killed like, you know, how many birds? Almost 10 birds in that one, you know, 6, 7, 8 birds in that one hunt over 3 days in that was that Nebraska or South Dakota? That might have been Nebraska. And then we went to South Dakota after that. We hunted there. We ended up killing some Merriams there. which was the ones we killed in Nebraska were also Merriams. A couple of them were hybrids, where they were the Eastern hybrid cross.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, man. And then we came back to Texas and hunted for a few more days. I didn't end up killing a Rio though. So I killed an Eastern hybrid. I killed a Merriam's, obviously, and then I killed the Osceola. So I killed 3 of the 4 officially.
Yeah.
You can count a hybrid as one officially. But I was kind of like, I'm not going to really count that, because to me, it's not really an Eastern. Like, if I'm going to kill an Eastern, I want to kill a full Eastern, like in Minnesota or Wisconsin or something, one of those northern states where they're the full purebred Eastern. But it was really cool. I think Robert ended up coming back to Texas. He killed a Rio, finished his spring Grand Slam. And I was just like, wow, that's so cool. That was like his 7th or 8th Grand Slam he's ever killed. But what a really cool experience that was to do that. And I think we did that again the next spring. Maybe we didn't. I don't remember, but that might have been the only spring we did that one together. Maybe it was the next spring. I don't remember now. It's been, that was back. That was almost 15 years ago now. It's kind of crazy to think back to that, but it was a lot of fun, man. Those were some fun times hunting wild turkeys, and that just really grew a passion for me for turkey hunting. And I love turkey hunting now with a bow. It's like my favorite thing to do every spring. And last spring was the first spring that I didn't really have a lot of time to go out and do a lot of spring turkey hunting. And part of it was Robert had passed away right before season opened up. So it was kind of like, it was one of those things that we always had done together. As well, because I'd come out. We were on the same hunting lease in Texas, and we hunted that same lease together for Rios there, and he passed away right before the season started, and so that was pretty tough. I think I went out one time, and I couldn't do it, man. It just being out there on the property, just a lot of memories out there of deer hunting and turkey hunting with him, and it was tough. And I just realized, like, grief is one of those things, man. I never had somebody that close to me pass away who was just a best friend and had taught me so much, and we had done so much business. We had done so much hunting together over the years. We had just had so many talks about life. He was my drinking partner. He was my eating partner, my coffee partner, my hunting partner. He was like a grandpa. He was like, he was all these things wrapped up in one. And what an honor to meet somebody who, in his older age, who had went through so much in life, through divorces and businesses, growing multi-million-dollar businesses, those multi-million-dollar businesses falling apart and going bankrupt, to just being able to spread his passion the way he did. He was such a unique person, and I just know for the rest of my life, I'll honor that. I'll honor that relationship. I'll honor that time together. He ended up getting a extreme form of cancer where it took over his body really quick, and he went quick, and it was just like, it hit me out of the blue. I was like, what the heck? I didn't think this guy would ever die. Like, this is the guy, he was 83 years old when he passed away. And I figured I'd be wheeling Robert out to the ground blind until he was 100, like over 100. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I always thought that, like, in my head, I had this. My reality was that I'm going to be wheeling Robert out to we had literally talked about that. He's like, you better take me out to that blind. No matter how old I get, you better be bringing me out there. Like, we would joke about that, and I literally thought that would happen. It was literally 2 years ago, Robert was still bow hunting with a crossbow. And, 3 years ago, we killed a couple bucks together. And then the year after that, he killed a buck by himself with his crossbow. And that was his last buck he ever killed. But I wanted to tell this story about, I think one of the cool stories I could tell is, so on the hunting lease, we hunted deer out there in Turkey together. This is in Central Texas. This is the lease that I first hunted pigs on. And then when I moved to Texas, he invited me out there to be on the lease with him. And there's 8 of us guys out there. And it was a pretty tight knit group of guys. Robert had been hunting on this lease for 40 years. He found this lease, got to know the property owner, and been out there for many years. So he knows this property like it's the back of his hand, right? Like, he knows this thing so well. So we'd go out and hunt together. He'd teach me, here's where, here's different trails, here's how it's set up, here's how the deer move through the property. He taught me a lot about all that. And then he would encourage me to go out and just explore and do sits in different spots to learn about how the deer were moving through that area. Not even you don't even have to bring your bow. Just go out and sit and watch and learn, you know. It's really cool how he kind of taught me to do that. And so I got to know this property, and I think our rules were we had 3 or 4 stand sites, so we could have 3 or 4 stand sites on the property a piece on this 1,000-acre piece. So, you know, there was pretty widespread. You know, we had different rules around that, but I had learned this one area. I called it behind the bales. It was down on this river bottom and kind of on the north side of the property. And anyway, nobody was really hunting that area or hunting it very much. There was a couple stands that were close to it with a couple of the other people. They didn't really hunt it very hard. And I started to notice a pattern of deer running, you know, a couple of good bucks running through that area. Got some trail camera photos, and there was a lot of doe movement more than anything. Honestly, I had got a couple photos, but there was a lot more doe movement. I was like, well, when the rut hits, that's probably going to be the spot, because those bucks are going to be running those does on that river bottom.
Yeah.
And this was all stuff that Robert had taught me. He's like, you got to watch how it works. This is total, you know, and I know that you can look at similarities between deer hunting in other states as well. But Texas is a little bit different, where we have like multiple rut times. I don't know if when you lived here, did you kind of learn about some of that a little bit? Like,
you know, I wish I only went deer hunting like twice. I never got on anybody's lease. I did public land, and I didn't even do like big troughs of public land, because, you know, back in the day, rivers were public. So I would just walk down dry riverbeds, and I did kill a nice, probably 120-inch whitetail buck. He would have, if I had to guess, I'd say he was like 3 years old, like a giant of tomorrow. I think he was about to explode, but to be honest, I just was happy to see any deer.
Yeah.
And I had to go out with a shotgun, double-aught buckshot. Like, there were all sorts of regulations. Man, it was a weird situation, because when I got out of that riverbed, every time there was a truck parked down the road watching me, and then they'd follow me around town, and they did not like me going down and doing that. And I called the warden ahead of time to make sure everything was on the up and up, and he's like, no, everything's good, everything's legal. What's interesting is he never asked me any questions about anything other than, did my game cameras ever pick up any illegals, like walking through the riverbeds? But that has since become illegal. You can no longer do that. So I might have been the last person to do that. And who knows? Maybe my specific hunt was the catalyst to make that illegal. But yeah, I never had the like organic big trough of land Texas deer hunting experience, even though I was down there for a few years.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like you start to learn, like, because I grew up in the Midwest in Minnesota, and hunting deer on ag land, you know, and fields and field edges and you know, wheat fields and corn fields and stuff like that, and how they move through that versus, you know, obviously we have feeders in Texas. We don't have a lot of ag. This property has a good diverse amount of ag and open hay fields and cedar breaks, you know. So and then oak breaks as well. So it was really a diverse piece of property where I could really learn, you know, different ways of hunting deer in Texas. But one of the things about Texas deer is they come into an early rut, or they come into a rut, but then they also have a couple late rut periods. So if you could catch those deer running those does at the right time, like, you could hit them at multiple, you know, you have multiple opportunities to you know, kill a good buck. And for me, that was that first rut. It was kind of like November 15th through kind of the 25th. It was like a good 10-day period there. That first rut really hit. It was usually later, you know, kind of later than everybody else. And then the second rut, you know, you could get into December, and then that final rut sometimes is in the early January even. And so I was kind of keying in. I didn't really hunt hard the early part of the season, because we can start bow hunting October 1st, or roughly around October 1st, the first week of October usually. And this was 2018, by the way. So just to kind of give some context to it, but I'd been seeing some good deer, and Robert had been seeing some good deer. He lived out there. And so we were both kind of keying on some good bucks. We knew there were some good bucks running around. Some of the other guys, we didn't share a ton of information with each other, because it was still kind of competitive, right?
Yeah. You want to go back to camp and have the biggest buck there, for sure.
Yeah. But Robert and I shared quite a bit with each other at that point. And, you know, just being good friends and stuff like. So we kind of knew a couple of these bucks were running around, you know, these bigger caliber bucks. And one of them was probably the biggest buck we've ever seen on this property. So everybody knew about it, but nobody was talking about it. Robert and I had been kind of talking about it a little bit, but anyway, we kind of knew where he was running a little bit. But that first rut hit, and I had a buddy out with his son on the property, who I was kind of focused on, getting him on some pigs. So he had come out to visit for that week. It was still a little bit, this was like, I think it was like the 17th or 18th of November. So I had known that like kind of the rut was getting started at that point, but
Yeah.
I was focused more for the next week, that I was going to really hit it hard. But anyway, that night I went and dropped those guys off at one of my ground blinds to hunt pigs. And I was like, well, like if I hurry up, I can jump in the tree. I had a good wind for this spot, what I called the BTB, behind the bales. It was behind this big hay bale on the edge of a wheat field down going into a river bottom. And so I snuck in there, good wind. And right away when I got in my stand, I just remember I was surrounded by deer. Like they were all over me. It was the coolest thing. Like these does were everywhere. No bucks. It was just all does. They're all feeding around me, coming through, working their way through this river bottom. And I was like, wow, this is like, it just felt magical. It was a crazy thing because I wasn't expecting it, and I hadn't really hunted that spot yet into that year, into 2018. And I was really focused on helping Ryan and his son get on some pigs. They had never been hunting in Texas and wanted to kill pigs. So it was really cool. Like I just was, and Robert and I always texted when we were out hunting. We'd always, what are you seeing? How's it going? So he was in his blind at the same time over by his house. He had a spot over by his house that he would go sit in, because he was a little bit older now at this point, and he was using a crossbow. He couldn't get around as good as he liked. And, I was like, what are you seeing? He's like, oh man, there's just a lot of early movement tonight. A lot of does around. I was like, I know, man, it's crazy. It's kind of feels magical out here. He's like, it does. He's like, I just remember him saying, let's be patient. Like this could be a good night for us. This could be a magical night, he said. And I was if you knew Robert and how he talked, it was classic Robert. It was so cool. He just loved the way he talked about hunting. It's going to be a magical night, and next thing I knew, I caught some movement off to my left, and I said, hey, Robert, I got some movement to my left. Looks like a buck. Like, I'm going to put my phone down. He's like, shoot straight, aim small, miss small. And he always, he would encourage me, put your phone down, get focused, get ready, whatever. Be patient though, be patient, with a higher caliber of buck that I had ever shot. Like you start to learn how to have patience with those bigger bucks, that, any little wrong movement, any little wrong, thing you do, like they're gone. They're just smart old bucks. And so I'm dialed in, I'm focused, and I got my bow in hand and I'm ready to go. And these does, I'm really surprised the does didn't win me because they were all around me. Like it was just, and that's where kind of the magic happened. Like these does were surrounding me that night, and I never got winded. And I watched this buck come off from 60 yards out, just coming through. He hit every tree on the way. It's just like branches falling down. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening. And he was coming in to check on those does. And I knew right where his trail crossed in front of me. There was two different trails, one at 30 yards, one at 20 yards. And it looked like he was coming right for that trail. So I'm just like perfectly set up and ready. I'm just kind of looking off to my right, just hoping one of those does don't catch me pulling back or something like that, or win me. And fortunately, it never happened. That doe or that buck, he walked right in my range. I didn't even have time. I didn't even try to range him. I just knew he was walking on that trail. So I kind of aimed for like 20, in between 25 yards, and I just pulled back, put it on him. He was perfectly quartered away as he turned, and he looked up at me, and I shot, and the rest, he literally dropped 50 yards away. And I was just like, it was magic. It literally was magic. I was like, did that just happen? I couldn't believe it. And so to give context, this is a 160-inch 11-point buck. Like this is a massive Texas buck, 21-inch inside spread. This is just a big buck for where we're at. Like we're on a private property, but this is not high fence or anything like that. Low fence, just, it was a great buck. It was literally the biggest buck that had been shot out on that property at that point. And it was amazing. And I just texted, I was like, I got him. I shot him. Robert's like, I got a buck coming in too. Hold on. He texted me. I'm like, what? And so he ended up shooting a buck as well right after that. And so that was such a cool hunt. Like we doubled up that night, and I brought my buck in. I went and helped him get his buck, and we doubled up that night. And it was amazing. It was one of the most amazing hunts I've ever been on. And again, this is just like, it just seemed like this happened when Robert and I hunted together. These magical things happened where it would always come together.
Yeah.
And man, what a cool thing. And I've got that picture. It's one of my favorite photos, but we took pictures the next day together with both of our bucks. And he had shot a really good one too. His was probably 130, 135 inch, I think 9-pointer, 10-pointer as well. And those were both really good bucks for that property. But man, again, just diving into some of those memories with Robert, man, that was just an amazing hunt, amazing time. And it's kind of funny because now I'm more passionate about elk hunting. More than anything, I've gotten more passionate about elk hunting over the last couple of years. But just thinking back to turkey hunting and deer hunting, those things, those hunts I started up with in Minnesota in the Midwest, and how it's totally different here. But who you hunt with, the time you spend, in camp together, the camaraderie, the stories we told, the ways that he used his wisdom to teach me and help me learn, not just about hunting, but about life through hunting.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. I could never repay him for that, because I'll use those lessons for the rest of my life till the day I die. And I'm teaching my kids those lessons now too,
Yeah.
And like we kind of talked about with hunting camp, I'm teaching those lessons to guys in a hunting camp now. That was part of my passion. Robert had encouraged me to really, take my self-growth and self-development and bring that into that hunting camp setting, because that's really, hunting camp is magical. It's where you can be open and free and have deeper conversation and learn from each other. And I'm just appreciative of that opportunity that he pushed me, that other people around me have pushed me to do that and take some of these lessons that these guys have taught me, specifically Robert, in life. So yeah, it's cool, man. It's fun. These are fun to think back to. This is so much fun.
Good, man. It is therapeutic. I think that, I obviously we're friends. And so I saw that Robert had passed, and it was obvious that he meant a lot to you. And it was right at that same time that I had just recorded my episode 100, which was to my father-in-law, who I wouldn't quite say is the same relationship as you and Robert, but like absolutely taught me everything I know about hunting. I have so many fun stories, and recording that episode was one of the most fun episodes I've done out of all of them, just bringing in my brother-in-law and my original hunting buddy, Steven. And so I was like, let's get you on, Collin. Let's talk about Robert. And here we are, man. And like, I love it. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy hearing these stories, seeing you smile. It obviously means a lot. And we all have that person that's really important to us, whether it's hunting related or just in life. And so it's good that we get to remember him in such a fun way with hunting stories. I think that's kind of the point, right? Is to tell these stories our entire life. To tell them to your grandkids, right? But like, let me tell you about my buddy Robert when you do have grandkids. I know your kids are little, but yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. Do you have any more stories you want to tell? Otherwise, maybe we can tell people a little bit more about what you do and then wrap it up. I know you're a busy guy.
I think my biggest regret, honestly, is I wish. I think this is maybe something for the listeners to take home and remember is, I wish I would have recorded more of those conversations. And I know you don't think about that in the moment, but with what we have with technology today, I wish I would have sat down and just like had a like a podcast, even if it was just privately between me and him that I never shared. I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have, taken those moments. I do have videos, and I do have, old videos on my phone, and I have pictures and stuff like that. And I have those memories deep inside of me. I'll never forget those things, of course.
Yeah.
But it would have been fun to share some of those stories, to people, so they could really see a different side of Robert that I saw, with that in-depth relationship that we built together. So maybe that's something for guys to think about. Don't, when you have the opportunity, to maybe have a conversation or sit down with somebody to maybe do a podcast, or even just set up your phone and just record a conversation between you and somebody you love and care about, or maybe your hunting partner. It'd be fun to do that, because then you could look back at that and relive those moments in maybe a different way than just memory. So
yeah, I'll double down on that, Collin. My guest number one was supposed to be my father-in-law. He was pretty deep into his chemotherapy. He didn't really understand the concept of a podcast, and he thought he would be doing more than he would have to, but he was deep into chemo, and he's like, when I feel better, and he just never got to the point that he was feeling better. So unfortunately, I never got him on here. So you're 100% correct, Collin, 100% correct. Have those conversations with those people and record them if you can. And I'll actually do one better. If anyone wants to have one of those conversations with a loved one, do it here. Like, I will happily record it. I will sit back and let someone else guest host their loved one and share their stories, and I'll just sit here and enjoy it because I love that stuff. I think those are some of the best ones that people feel most passionate about. So,
Yeah.
to listeners, or Collin, if you know anyone that wants to do exactly what you just said, man, just reach out to me. I'll help facilitate all of that. So
That'd be cool, man. I appreciate that.
yeah. But let's do this. Let's tell the people where they can find you and what you're up to with high caliber hunts and your coaching and your running, if they can ever catch you. Why don't you share that stuff?
Yeah, man. No, it's obviously we kind of talked about it at the start a little bit. It's become a passion of mine through my own transformation. So it's been really cool. Like over the last year or so, through some of my own personal struggles and growth and different things, different transformations in different ways, not just weight loss, but the mental, emotional, even spiritual growth that I'm having in my life. I've just this passion for bringing more community and bringing men together to have more camaraderie. You know what it was like in that hunting camp, right? And you're still connected with a lot of those guys. Like I get a lot of those guys that come to my hunting camps and they're like, hey, I want to stay connected, and we get on maybe a text thread or whatever, and that's great. But I think there needs to be more. And so I've kind of taken that into building what I call High Caliber Nation. And it's become more of like a group coaching mastermind where we're getting together on a weekly basis to do a video call every week. We have a WhatsApp group where we chat and we talk about how to use what I call the core four in your life to bring more balance, to bring more growth, to bring more self-development. So it's been really cool to kind of grow that side. And a lot of guys are, they're growing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They're becoming what I like to say, they're becoming something greater in their life.
Yeah.
And like I'm right along with them. I've had some really cool growth and transformation in my life, and I can teach them a lot. And I'm using those skills to be a coach and teach. But also I'm learning a lot from these guys and the camaraderie and the fellowship we have together. So yeah, if that's something that, maybe your listeners are looking for, if they're looking for more camaraderie with other men in their life to start to grow and get on a better path, maybe dig out of some bad decisions they made, or maybe they've been complacent or things like that, reach out to me. I'm on Instagram. I'm pretty active and vocal on there. I'm getting more active on there now after I've went through my own personal struggles. I'm kind of getting back on the horse a little bit, so to say. So definitely just want to encourage guys, reach out. There's other guys out here like Michael
Absolutely.
and I who want to connect with you, want to build relationship with you. And then some of us have tools to help build a better framework in your life to teach you how to grow, to teach you how to become a better version of yourself so you can show up better in your friendships, your marriage, become a better dad, become a better friend, how to physically get in a better place, which is a huge catalyst for everything. How to maybe find your faith, how to financially become more literate in those ways. There's just a lot of growth to happen, but I think that starts with getting around the right people. And it's cool to be able to use High Caliber Hunts as kind of a catalyst to that, but now expand that into High Caliber Nation and actually build community around it. So that's kind of what I'm working on. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm building that and growing that right now. And it's been a lot of fun, but I know God's got a big plan to use that to help others become a better version, become something greater. So
yeah, that's cool, Collin. Well, I will put links to all of that in the show notes.
Cool.
Make it easy for the folks. They can just look there and click and find you on Instagram, and I'll put all your websites and all that stuff on there. So guys, please do check out all of that. Collin, man, this was fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
and,
we will.
Yeah, I think we should. And let's get some of your stories. Obviously, we wanted to hear Robert's. I think that was kind of what we planned on.
Yeah.
But I know you got plenty of stories. I'd love to hear some of your elk adventures. Well, let me ask this. Are you going out this year?
Not going out this year. I'm taking this fall off more for just self-growth and kind of staying close to home. I'm going to hunt around here more than anything, I think, this year.
Gotcha.
Focus on that. But hopefully go back out next year and get back on that. So I went out last year and it was my first time back out to Montana, actually elk hunting in 10 years, maybe longer. I have a great hunting partner out there, my buddy Toby Cap. And now that I'm in great physical shape, doing these races and stuff, that's why I love doing it. I love doing hard stuff, man, because it really gets you prepared for the mountains. I spent 20 days in the mountains last year, and I don't think I got tired once, to be honest with you.
I wish I could say the same.
My trail races are way harder than carrying an 80-pound pack in the mountains. Like it's doing 100 miles or 50 miles in the mountains is really freaking tough.
Yeah.
So it really gets you prepared. I think what does Cam say? Cam's got this kind of this moniker that he uses, train hard, hunt easy. And I can tell you, if if you really want to work hard on yourself and level yourself up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like, again, like with what I do with my coaching, like it really gets you prepared for the mountains. And even though I didn't kill one last year, I got on a few, had opportunities. It's so much fun. There's just so much passion around elk hunting, calling them in, the situations, just being in the mountains obviously is huge. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So I'm really on the start of my elk hunting journey, even though I've done it a few times over the last 15 years. I still haven't killed my first bull elk. So that's what's on tap, hopefully for next year.
All right, man. Yeah, I got my first archery bull elk kill last year, and I'm not going to archery elk hunt this year, most likely because I drew a moose tag. So as soon as we wrap up here, I'm diving into the woods to go set up camp so I can get back out there for opening day for moose, which is Saturday. So pretty fired up. Colorado. Yeah, it's just a cow tag, but I don't care. I'm not looking for
awesome.
Like if I ever want moose antlers, I'm going to go to Alaska or British Columbia, somewhere where they actually have paddles, because these Colorado Shiraz moose, they're not huge antlers. So I'm just looking for a full freezer. So man, Collin, this was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate it, brother. And we will connect again soon. And I'm sure we'll stay in touch between, the next time we get you on. So thank you again, man. Appreciate it.
Sounds good, Michael. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, man, and tell some stories. And honestly, just remember Robert. So this one's dedicated to my good friend, Robert Hogue. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. Again, I want to thank Collin for coming on the podcast. Obviously, those stories meant a lot to him. The gentleman, Robert, meant a lot to him, and that's really important. The offer is out there, guys. If you have someone that won't be with us forever and you want to have them on the podcast, reach out to me. You can even host. That's fine by me. I don't care. Let's hear some great stories from some great hunters. So please do reach out. I think probably Instagram message is the best way. I also have a get in touch with me on the website that you can check out. But either way, thank you guys for tuning in. Please check out all of Collin's links. They're in the show notes. Now, guys, get out there, vote, and take one person with you, but also make some stories of your own. Thank you.